Welcome to the Talent Planner Show. This show helps leaders of small to medium-sized businesses win the battle for talent and increase profits by mastering the skill of talent planning and becoming talent planners. What is talent planning? Talent planning drives the growth of your people and organization through multi-year talent plans that tie your talent decisions to where you're going, your strategy as you execute it. So if you're ready to increase your retention and profitability through talent planning, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Jordan Ogren, the marketing manager here at MyTalentPlanner. And as always, I'm joined by the road warrior, CEO and founder of MyTalentPlanner, and a talent planner himself, Steve Van Remortel.
Hey, good morning, Jordan. Excited to be with you this morning. I hit the road again this afternoon, but excited to be here to talk about, kind of some things we see coming for small to medium-sized businesses.
Yeah, we're really going to try to, in this episode, kind of paint the picture of where we see the industry for SMBs going and just bringing tangible actions that leaders of small to medium-sized businesses can put into practice. So, Steve, do you want to kind of bring, how did this come to your mind? I think there's maybe a story or an insight that we've had that you want to share of how did this idea come to be?
Yeah, so just to back up a second, our objectives today, just so our listeners are, really hearing what they're going to get today. Number one, we're going to share the vision for a single login for SMBs, and that we see that happening over the next couple of years. So we're going to talk about why and how that is going to happen. And then what can you do as a small and medium-sized business leader to prepare for this evolution of a single login to all your software? And then we'll provide you some next steps. So that's kind of our objectives today, Jordan. And so I appreciate you teeing that up for me. So we recently did a remodel on our kitchen. And, so we're working through picking out stuff. And we're thinking, okay, we're going to get a new oven. And, we need the microwave. And then all of a sudden now there's an oven that can be a microwave oven and a regular oven that you heat up and bake stuff in, right? So all of a sudden we have this technological advancement that eliminates a whole appliance in the kitchen. Like we just picked up some sweet cupboard space, prime real estate in our kitchen because the microwave now is going to be in the oven. So what really made me think of that is I love technological advancements, especially ones that make life easier, make life better. And we got technological advancements going on all around us right now. And it's almost to a certain extent you have to be open to and willing to adopt them because there's just so many coming at you on a daily basis, weekly basis. And, we have a lot of technological advancements going on in our home, but there's a lot of advancements going on in our business as well. I mean, one of those, as an example, is the technology disruptions happening in the strategic HR talent space right now. 15 years ago, it happened in the technology disruption happened in the tactical space, with Paylocity and Paycom and all the HRIS systems. But now that technological disruption's moving into the strategic HR and talent space. And obviously that's where we spend a lot of time with our clients. And so there's a lot going to be happening over the next 2 to 5 years. And our objective today is really to highlight what we see happening, and then how do we as small to medium-sized business leaders prepare for that? So that's kind of what we're going to cover today. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that sounds great, Steve. You want to jump into that vision of the future?
It was January of 2020, and think back to that time. The economy was booming. It was pre-COVID. We didn't even know what COVID really was then. They were starting to have conversations about it, but it wasn't a concern at that point. Economy's booming, and as I travel that time of year, I do a lot of question and answers with small and medium-sized leaders, small and medium-sized business leaders, what we call SMB leaders, and and with our clients, obviously, and doing a lot of public speaking. So I get an opportunity to really do a lot of market research before we put our plan together. And I was asking a lot of questions, and I kept hearing a lot of the same things. And that really helped shape our vision of where we see the industry going. And then ultimately we put a strategy together, to get us to that vision. And so there were several things that we saw coming. Number one, people issues have been and will continue to be the number one issue for small to medium-sized businesses for years to come. It's not going to get better. The generational math tells us that. The second thing that we see coming, and I already mentioned, is this technology disruption that's taking place in the strategic HR space or the talent space. More and more companies are going to be using technology to plan for their talent, to develop their talent, not just store their employee data. And then the third thing, which we're going to talk about today, is really this idea of moving SMB companies to a single login. So when a leader of a billion-dollar organization comes in the morning, he or she logs in and all their software is talking to each other. There's one login, and their accounting software has already updated the metrics in their strategy software, and there's a lot of communication. It's what we call integrated, right? And so that's already happened for big companies, large companies. But this now is going to happen for small to medium-sized businesses. And so that's what's coming. Now, do we have the exact timetable figured out? No. I mean, when visions, I can see it happening, but exactly the timetable, it'll play itself out. But this is going to happen. And what validates some of that? Well, Intuit QuickBooks, who obviously has one of the largest client bases of small to medium-sized businesses in the country and the world, bought MailChimp last September. And so they bolted in a marketing company or a marketing software onto their accounting software. And now it's my understanding that they're trying to bolt a HRIS or a tactical HR employee information system onto the side of their platform. And all of a sudden, Intuit's in a position to provide a single login to small and medium-sized businesses that has their marketing, their accounting, and their HRIS system all in a single login. And so to me, this isn't a question of, is this going to happen? It's a question of, when is it going to happen? And so we kind of put our strategy together to respond to that. In our conversation today, I really want to spark leaders' thoughts around what's our response as a small to medium-sized business to this technology advancement, this single login thing that's coming. And so, there's a lot of movement going on in the software space right now, and it's going to only accelerate over the next 2 to 4 years. And so what we want to do here today is just, hey, heads up, this is coming. And then you got to develop the best plan for your organization. But the biggest takeaway from today is be thoughtful about it. Be proactive. Don't let the technology disruption come at you and have you kind of be a victim of it, or you kind of get into the game kind of late. Be proactive in figuring that out. And so you and I, Jordan, have talked a lot about this technology disruption, and we're trying to figure out exactly how it's going to go down and what it's going to look like. And again, that we'll get more clarity as we continue to move forward. But did you have any questions or thoughts on that vision? Because, you and I have talked about this a lot, and we have some great strategic conversations, right? So what are your thoughts on, do you see this coming? You're a guy that values technology. You have more software apps in your life than anybody else I know. What's your take on this?
Yeah, well, I think first thing, I kind of wanted to ask you, Steve, just to continue this conversation on it, is like, maybe as a leader, I'm thinking, okay, Steve, why does this matter? Like, I kind of, as you were talking about, you sign in the morning, it's all there. You can kind of grasp like, oh, that would save me time, save me things falling through the crack. But speak directly to that, Steve, is why is this single login important for SMB leaders? Like, what does it enable them to do they couldn't do with 7 logins or more than one login?
Imagine with us, right? Vision with us, right? You come in the morning and all your KPIs, your metrics have been updated overnight from your accounting package. That is the easiest one to see, right? All of our metrics are updated. You can see where the business is at on a daily basis because the accounting and the metrics and your strategy are all integrated with each other. There's other things like your development plans are all right in front of you. Like when you go to put development plans or what we call individual talent plans in place for people, they're not on a server in different drives. Like they're all connected together. The strategy and the talent, their development plans are tied to their employee data and all the information you have in the tactical or HRIS system. And so right now, Jordan, I have 6 logins, right? We got to log into our CRM system. We got to log into our accounting system. We got to log in, just into our computers in general. And this is going to simplify life tremendously. It's going to automate a lot of things that we have to do manual now, and because they're manual, we don't do them because we don't get time. We don't see them as important as other things that we have going on. Like for example, I was with a really proactive company on the talent front, and they have 300 employees, and they have a talent plan or a development plan in place for 300 employees. I mean, think about managing that, right? But think about it if it's on an Excel spreadsheet or it's in a software, but it's by itself. Like there's no integration with other software, and so now all of a sudden, now all this is tied together. And so when I'm in a one-on-one, I call up the development plan for that person, and it's all right there. I didn't have to find it on the server. I didn't have to wonder where it was and wonder where it is, and is it updated because it's in the exact same place it was last one-on-one meeting, right? And the other thing that we actually eventually built in the software that we build is your behavioral science assessments are right there, your development plans right there, your performance review plans right there, and all of that is tied to the strategy. So it's amazing what this single login's going to do for us. But here's the watch out. Is that in the discussions I've had with a lot of small to medium-sized business leaders is that over the next 1 to 3 years, it's going to be kind of clunky, right? It's going to be kind of clunky on how we get from where we are today to having all these individual logins to moving to that single login. So for example, let's say that we're moving to an integrated software and we have a CRM system that we really like, but the vendor or the integrator, the software integrator that we choose has a different CRM system. So what do you do at that point, right? Now, maybe there's the ability for integrators to turn on, a multiple options for CRM and multiple options for HRS. That's part of this vision that still will come into focus as we move forward. But it's happening. It's happening. The question is how is it going to happen and how quickly is it going to happen?
And then I think that leads Steve into, okay, if what you said is happening, what do I do? What can I do as a leader? What should I do? What are kind of those actions that you started talking about in the earlier opening that we're going to kind of give these leaders? What are some things they can do of, okay, Steve, I hear you. What now, or what's next?
So let's use our own story here at MyTalentPlanner and Stop the Vanilla as an example. So January of 2020, 2.5 years ago, we saw this vision coming. We saw this integration coming. We saw the technology disruption in our space. And what did we do? We went through a planning process to vet out what technologies are out there. What do SMB, we interviewed over 100 SMB leaders to find out what they wanted in a software that would help them solve their people issues, that would help them move towards a single login. And we looked at every technology in the industry, right, Jordan? And we spent over 1.5 years just doing research and interviewing and finding out where our industry is going and where it's going for small and medium-sized businesses. And once we saw that, right, we saw the single login coming, we saw the technology disruption coming, we saw the people issues continuing, and there was not a technology in the marketplace that handled or captured all three of those things. And so, and we shared the options, the technology options with our clients, and they're like, nah, there wasn't a software out there that had strategy and talent in it, right? Remember we have this visual where you have these strategy software out there and you have the talent software, but there wasn't a software that brings strategy and talent together. And ultimately, all of our talent decisions and our talent planning should be tied to where we're going, right? We can't figure out what we need for talent and plan for our talent through a talent plan if we first don't know where we're going. And so we saw where we were going. We analyzed all the technology out there and fundamentally had to make the decision. Do we build or do we try to cobble something together? Because there was not a solution that our clients wanted that included strategy, talent, and execution. And so what did we decide to do, Jordan? We decided to build an investor group and build MyTalentPlanner. So our response to single login, our response to the technology disruption going on in our industry and what we do for our clients. And our response to the number one issue that most small and medium-sized business leaders face was a software that does all of that in one login. And that is what MyTalentPlanner is. It has your strategy, your talent, and your execution in a single login, in a single software. And the second thing that it does is it allows you to develop 3-year, pick the time frame, but 3-year talent plans at your leadership team level, at your department's level, and then for each individual. And so what the space that we filled, there was a huge space, or a blue ocean, as a lot of people call it in the strategy world, of tying talent to strategy in a single software and then executing that strategy and talent plan. And so our response, and I'm using us as an example to get leaders to think about, what's our response to this? So our response to these trends was building a software, building a technology. I'm not suggesting that's the answer for every company, but here are a couple things that leaders can do. Number one is really dig into the research. Look at what's happening in your industry and in your space, and get your own point of view on where business technology is heading in the next 2 to 4 years. I personally think this is all going to happen pretty quick. I think there's going to be a lot of software consolidation and what we call the race to a single login. I think it's real. I think it's going to happen, and candidly, it already is. So what's your point of view on it? Do you see it happening like we see it? And specifically, how is it happening in your industry? So that would be the first thing, Jordan, that I would encourage leaders to do, is get their point of view, the POV, on where they see technology going, and do they see the single login happening in their space? And then the second one we have here is really what is commonly called your technology stack, or your tech stack. And even for a small company like ours, Jordan, we have a tech stack. You and I have looked at that. We got to look at it again as part of our planning process. But we have kind of laid out where we're headed with our technology. And again, it's not crystal clear, but we have a good sense of where it's headed because we're watching the industry roll itself up right now. And obviously, by us bringing out a software that has very unique capabilities, strategy, talent, and execution in one login, we are no longer going to be a victim of the technology disruption. We're going to be part of it, right? We want to be in the game, in the business, right? We want to be part of this. And so what is your tech stack? And is there somebody in your organization that owns your technology plan? Somebody that's visioning out where your technology needs to be in 2 to 3 years to deliver your strategy, to take care of your customers. Because more and more technology is going to be used in every industry, and a lot of the industries it's already happened. And then the third thing is develop your technology plan to close the gap. You have where you are today, and what's your point of view or your vision of where it needs to be, and then put a plan together to make that happen. And just integrate it into your strategic planning process, what we call your strategy and talent planning process. Integrate technology planning into that because it's part of your vision. It's part of where we're going. And this has been a huge learning for me because I haven't been a big technology guy early in my career, but man, it's happening in our industry, and we could either die, die a slow death and ignore the technology disruption, or we can be part of it and be more proactive and be one of the earlier adopters, if you will. And that's really what drove us over the last 3 years. And I'm excited about where we're at, but I want to encourage all the small and medium-sized business leaders to take those 3 steps. Develop your point of view on how technology is going to impact your business and your industry over the next, I would say, 1 to 3 years, because a lot's going to change. A year from now, our industry is going to be totally different. The second thing is create a vision for your technology stack and what technology you're going to have and how is it going to be integrated together, and are you moving towards a single login? And then third is develop your technology plan. What are we going to get done this year in the next 6 months to move our technology forward and not be a victim of it, but be proactive in regarding to it? So those are, in there, Jordan, I shared a lot of information, right? I shared our response to the technology or to the trends that are coming. I shared some recommendations any other thoughts or questions that we've talked about that you think we should share with our listeners today on this pending emerging consolidation of software moving to the race for a single login?
Yeah, I think you covered it quite succinctly, Steve. I had two thoughts just on some things you were talking about. One thought was just like the 3 actions is basic, like building plans, right? You have to get that diagnosis, like where are we currently at and what do we believe? I mean, as much as Steve continually says, like it's a matter of when, you still have to accept or kind of disagree and then formulate your own hypothesis, your own point of view of the future. And then right with a plan, it's like, okay, then we have to create the plan to kind of, I mean, we talk about it with talent planning. Where are we at today with our talent? Where do we want to be with our talent? What's the plan to get us there? And that's the exact same thing we're doing here. It's current tech stack, our current technology. This is where we want to be, need to be to fulfill our strategy and to not be eaten by software. We need to do it. And then that leads to my the final thought I have is just the fact you're talking about software kind of taking over the world. Mark Andreessen, he's a large, I don't know if he's VC or whichever, but he invests in a lot of companies. He famously said years and years ago that software will eat the world, that eventually software is going to become just everywhere. And to Steve's point earlier, I think it's really helpful for leaders to start to realize, hey, I'm either getting burdened by my software or I'm using the software to become like superhuman because it's automating these tasks that I don't want. And I'm able to do my thinking, my strategy, the things that as leaders you're best at. That's why you're where you're at. It's not because you can do millions of things. Sure, you probably can, but it's your thinking, your ability to kind of see. So software helps you free up time to do the things you're kind of better at. So that was really just from throughout Steve. I had those few thoughts, but like I said, you covered it very well. And I think for someone who hasn't been thinking about this is a great crumb or nugget to kind of chew on to start thinking about that future.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Early on in my career, we did a lot of the strategy and talent work manually. We thought it was great, worked fine, right? And I, to a certain extent, wanted to avoid the technology disruption, but I got to the point where I couldn't. And that's where I think a lot of leaders will get to at some point is that I don't really want to deal with this. It's another variable in my business. But to your point, Jordan, it's going to get to the point where it was for us, where it was a why in the road. It was a why in the road. It was either ignore it and maybe pay the price for that, or lean into it and become a part of it, which it's a big world and there's a lot going on in the technology space. And I'm never going to sit here and think that we have it all figured out, right? But we chose to lean into it, and now we're positioned for whatever's going to happen over the next 3 years. And that's my encouragement to leaders: is put yourself in the right position to succeed based on how this thing unfolds. I mean, so to summarize, we see there being a race to the single login. You're going to see software integrators come out of the woodwork. The world is not going to let Intuit QuickBooks grab, think about the TAM, the tangible available market for getting the single login business for all small to medium-sized businesses. 99% of the businesses in the United States only, I'm not talking about international, have less than 500 employees. And very few of those, if any, have integrated the single login at this point. So when you think about the tangible available market of just the United States, and let's say an organization gets 60% of that TAM, that's billions of dollars of revenue for an organization that won the race to a single login. And so that, I mean, the beauty of capitalism is this is going to happen, and there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road. But when a capitalistic society, when business leaders and entrepreneurs see a large tangible available market, and they see this opportunity, it's going to happen fast. And I'm telling you right now, Intuit sees it. And then you're going to have all these other software integrators, which we're watching several of them, as they continue to figure out what their race to single login is. So one of my encouragements to you is engage in, watch, read, study what's going on there, because it is going to impact your business. So in summary out of today, what does the race to a single login mean to you? It means that how your organization uses and leverages software over the next 1 to 5 years, pick a time frame, is going to change significantly. And our encouragement to you today is put some proactive thought. Be very thoughtful about what that path looks like for you, where you see it going, and then what's your game plan or your vision and how your organization and your industry is moving towards that. Don't ignore it. Dive right into it and get as much clarity as you can. And then with clarity will come your strategy, will come your actions. And, I'm just telling you this only for the fact that it is coming, and we've already been through the path of thinking it through. And again, our response to that was launching MyTalentPlanner software. And it has us in a position to take advantage of these trends. And that's the same thing that we want small and medium-sized business leaders to do out of this podcast, is just be thoughtful, plan, think it through, and be proactive and be a part of this. Don't be a victim of it.
Well said, Steve. And to your point about leaders not maybe liking this, I think you can always hire someone or find someone within your organization, whether younger or not, that can just bring value to that process and maybe even make you kind of enjoy it a little more. So that's a note. But thank you for listening. We appreciate you tuning in. If you want to learn more about talent planning, learn more about our vision for the future, you can head over to mytalentplanner.com and you can get a free book on talent planning, just to understand it at a deeper level and kind of start to see, this might be the future too for how companies solve their people issues, but we didn't get into that today. We have a lot of free resources like podcasts like you're listening to today, articles, different types of videos that we have that can just help you get started on your own, because you don't need us to do my talent planning. And then there's also a 14-day free trial if you want to check out My Talent Planner for one single login for your strategy, talent, and execution. You can check that out and get 14 days free. If you enjoyed the episode and you got some level of value, jump in, Steve.
Hey, just one thing I wanted to add on there is that if checking out My Talent Planner and how we've integrated three main principles of business: strategy, talent, and execution together. If walking through the software, getting a live demo, giving you a login to the software so you can cruise around in it, if that helps you think through your vision or for your tech stack and where your organization's going regarding technology and a single login, reach out to us. We've had 3 years we've been working on this. And again, I'm not suggesting we got it all figured out, but we can see it, it's happening, and we have a response to it, and we'd love to help you think that through as well. So I just wanted to add that, Jordan, that we're here to help SMB leaders crush their goals and succeed in achieving their vision, and technology is a part of that. So we're here to help any way we can in you figuring out what the race to the single login means for you. So sorry about interrupting you. I just wanted to add that we're here.
Yep, and that'll be in the show notes as well, whether that's an email that you can email if you have any questions or just another link, because our goal is definitely to help SMBs make progress, and we think understanding this technological kind of integration is key to helping you make progress in the future. So feel free to reach out to us. We have a lot of insights, different conversations with leaders or other people we can even connect you with. So please reach out. Remember that the future of talent is talent planning, and those who will win in the future are talent planners, and we're helping you become talent planners on this show. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next week.